Khadijah. But out of its ashes the political doctrine of Islam emerged. And while the prophet failed, the profiteer soared to ever greater lows. Acquiescing to temptation, accepting Satan's bargain, Islam turned from gray to black. As the sun set on the pagans mooning the Kaaba moon god, it also set on the religion of Islam, never to rise again. As much as Muslims would love to absolve themselves and their prophet of the Quraysh bargain and satanic verses by claiming that the hadiths were unauthorized, they were unable. Both history and their cover-up render their objections moot. Without the reconciliation that followed the bargain, there was no way to explain.
Tabari and Ishak. The news of this prostration reached those of the messenger's companions who were in Abyssinia. The people said, "The Quraysh have accepted Islam." Some rose up to return. The angel Gabriel came to the messenger and said, "Muhammad, what have you done?"
Well, that's what the hadith says. The prophet first mentioned Gabriel's name 2 years later in Medina. But that's not to say he didn't have visitors. A trio of men, Baker, Umar, and Hamza, took their prophet to the woodshed. At least that's where they would have taken him had there been wood in Mecca. Islam's dark spirit was quoted saying,
Ishak, you have recited to the people that which I did not bring to you from Allah, and you have said that which he did not say to you. The messenger was grieved and feared Allah greatly. So Allah,
not Gabriel,
sent a revelation to him, consoling him and making light of the affair
of worldly bargains and satanic indulgences.
He informed him that there had never been a prophet or messenger before who desired as he desired and wished as he wished, but that Satan had cast words into his recitation, and he had interjected them on Muhammad's tongue and into his desires.
To hell with truth, literally. Desperate to save his prophetic mission, Muhammad retreated to familiar ground. He claimed that he was as covetous, as immoral, as demented, and as ill-advised as every other prophet. He was just dabbling in a little demonic delusion to satiate his cravings for sex, power, and money. It was no big deal. Only the Jewish scriptures couldn't bail him out this time. Neither the Torah nor the Talmud contained devilish tales that could be twisted to salvage his sorry soul. So none were given. There were no names dropped, biblical or otherwise. Muhammad was on his own. No prophet had ever
desired and wished as he had desired and wished.
The founders of Islam said,
Ishak, then Allah annulled what Satan had cast and established his verses by telling him that he was like other prophets and messengers.
Muhammad's Lord revealed,
every messenger or prophet before you recited the message Satan cast into his recitation. Allah abrogates what Satan casts. Then Allah established his verses. Allah is knower, wide.
This became Quran 22:52. One lie has been refuted with another. The 22nd surah would not be revealed for another decade. In fact, it was one of the final Medina surahs. But by reciting it, Muhammad destroyed his only alibi, denial. Now that the Quran has verified the satanic verses, Muslims cannot whisk them under the carpet without impugning Allah's credibility along with Muhammad's. Let's take a quick look at the surah to better understand Muhammad's mindset. But so as not to compound the prophet's error and take the passage out of context, I want you to know that the 47th verse of this late surah speaks of Allah's intended punishment on the day of doom. The 48th is about Allah overtaking townships. The 49th speaks of warnings. The 50th, forgiveness. And the 51st demeans the inmates of the flaming fire. Somehow that brings us to
Quran 22, verse 52. Never did we send a messenger or prophet before you, but when he framed a desire, Satan threw some vanity into his desire. But Allah will cancel anything vain that Satan throws in.
A second translation reads,
he recited the message Satan proposed, but Allah abolishes that which Satan proposes.
Another says,
Satan made a suggestion respecting his desire, but Allah annuls that which Satan casts.
And we have,
whose recitation Satan tampered with, yet Allah abrogates what Satan interpolates. And Allah will confirm his signs or revelations, for Allah is all-knower and wise.
It was a devilishly delicate matter. So everyone seemed to have a little different take on what Allah allegedly revealed, albeit 10 years later. But no matter how you slice it, the Quranic excuse confirms the satanic verse episode actually occurred. The hadith cannot, therefore, be unauthorized. Muhammad is said to have allowed Satan to throw
some vanity into his desires.
This would be the Quraysh bargain. And to have allowed Satan to
tamper with the recitations.
That would be the satanic verses. Allah then cancelled Satan's toss, abolished the devil's proposal, annulled Satan's cast, or performed an abrogation, the ultimate miracle of the Quran. But he never denied the Quraysh bargain or the satanic verses. Therefore, Muslims can't either. Allah abrogating the devil aside, the Quranic justification for the satanic verses ends with this treasure of spiritual inspiration.
Quran 22, verse 53, that he may make the suggestion thrown in by Satan, the devil's proposals, but a trial and temptation for those in whose hearts is a disease. Verily, the wrongdoers are in a schism, and those on whom knowledge has been bestowed may learn that the Quran is in the truth from your Lord, and that they may believe therein, and their hearts may submit lowly before it. For verily Allah is the guide of those who believe to the straight way.
Muhammad succumbs to temptation, sides with the devil, and it's everybody else's fault other than his own. His indulgence was convoluted into a trial for the infidels, our schism. Then, after saying that Satan's proposals often slip into Scripture, we're asked to trust the Quran, to submit lowly before it. While this is revolting, it's also convicting. Muslims who try to deny the existence of the satanic verses must deny the Quran, for clearly it acknowledges them. That leaves Islam in an impossible position. Muslims must either admit that Muhammad was a power-hungry, money-grubbing, sex-crazed charlatan in cahoots with the devil, or they must deny the validity of the Hadith and Quran. One leaves them without a prophet, the other without a God. Either way, they no longer have a religion.
Tabari. Thus Allah removed the sorrow from his messenger, reassured him about that which he had feared, and cancelled the words which Satan had cast on his tongue, that their gods were exalted high-flying cranes or goddesses, whose intercession was accepted with approval. He now revealed, following the mention of Alat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, the words, "Are yours the males and his the females? That indeed is an unfair division. They are but names which you and your fathers have given, to the words, to whom he wills and accepts."
This became Quran 53:21. Not only does this mean that Allah copy-edits Satan, it proves Muhammad didn't know where he was, or even who said what to whom, when. The aforementioned quote was from the 53rd Surah, which came before the 22nd. In fact, the 53rd was the 45th Surah handed down. It precedes the satanic event by many, many years. The 22nd Surah was the 107th out of 114 in the order of revelation. The Hadith says that these spiritual revelations followed one another, yet that is impossible. Not only is their order reversed, they are separated by a sea of words, hundreds of miles, and a decade of time. So Islam has a fatal problem. If the rationale for dismissing the satanic verse and Quraysh bargain episode isn't valid, or even plausible, Muhammad's motivations for establishing the submission religion were about vain desires, not godly revelations. There is no way for Muslims to differentiate between spiritual guidance and satanic deception. An acute problem considering how much of the Quran is fixated on Satan's realm, pain and punishment. Whether the Quraysh bargain and satanic verses occurred or not, the Quran cannot be trusted, for it claims they did. Further, a perfect and eternal tablet cannot be out of order, inverted, or grossly disjointed, especially on an issue of this magnitude. The entire validity of Islam pivots around the satanic verse Quraysh bargain episode. If Muhammad was